Welcome to Via the Grapevine, proudly brought to you by Tony DaCosta of Liquor City, Claremont, and offering you the chance to learn more about wine, the masters behind them, and even which wines to collect. My guest today is the wife of Pieter Ferreira, owner of Pieter Ferreira Cap Classique, and arguably the Cape's second most knowledgeable bubbly expert, Ann Ferreira. Very warm welcome, Ann. Lovely to see you.
Hi, Guy. Lovely to be here today on such a bubbly, perfect day to drink bubbles.
Indeed. Any day, a good day for bubbles. And I must say, it's perfect that we're celebrating with bubbles because really we can toast this new format of Via the Grapevine where we see each other face to face, and it's not just recordings like it's been over the last 5 years. So very exciting for all of us. And I think to plunge straight into it, I think it's fair to presume that most wine fans will know that Pieter Bubbles Ferreira is the Cape's leading exponent of traditional method sparkling wine and the master behind Graham Beck wines. What inspired him and you to develop your own range? And what is the current relationship between you and your husband and Graham Beck?
Oh, great question, Guy. So, I actually own my husband, which is great fun for me and a good position to be in. But no, in 2011, Pieter and I suddenly woke up one morning realizing that he would be 60 far sooner than he thought, which at that time was the official retirement plan, which is this year, although it's been extended for him at Graham Beck. And Pieter without bubbles just doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. So we needed to kind of go, what would the next step be for us in the future? So with Graham and Rowan and Anthony Beck's blessing, they said we could start our own brand. I now own my husband, as I say, and he is firmly entrenched and belongs to Graham Beck, where he's very much, he believes, part of the furniture and very much part of the family. So yes, so this is Pieter's retirement plan, except that it belongs to me and I do all the talking, the marketing, although he does the making and is everything behind the scenes.
Very exciting, I'm sure, for both of you. And you released your first vintage onto the market a year ago, correct?
That's right. It was our Blanc de Blanc 2012. We had about 2,000 bottles and extremely exciting, I must say, quite daunting, but it went off with a bang. So 6 years on the lees, yeah. And in fact, today we're going to be tasting our maiden vintage Rosé, which we've just released, and you'll be the first to be doing that. So
I'm very excited about that, and I'm very happy for you as well with the going off with a bang that you speak of, because wow, it really immediately seemed to garner a lot of respect. I know Christian Eads of Wine Mag described it thus: "This is categorically the best bottle fermented sparkling wine I've ever drunk from South Africa." So I guess with that in mind, the question needs to be, who is your target market with this particular bubbly?
Yes, so we were incredibly thrilled, humbled, blown away by Christian's comments as well as his review. And I think it's quite specific, the people who are really passionate about Cap Classique, or looking for a great alternative from French champagnes. It's maybe a more sophisticated buyer, person who's more interested, is going up the kind of tiers of drinking good bubbly. Again, because of the age of the wine, the style it's made, yeah, much more in line with that. Those are the guys we're looking at.
Mm. You mentioned a little earlier about 6 years on the lease, and I suppose let's skip to that question, because I was going to ask you, is your plan to always have the wine live on the lease for exactly 6 years and then have 6 months of cork maturation? Or will that fluctuate with the quality of a vintage? Because obviously the minimum for vintage cuvées is 3 years, isn't it?
That's right. So in Champagne, it's 3 years of you producing a vintage champagne. In South Africa, it's still 9 months, although the law is changing next year in 2021 to 12 months on the lees. but you can call it a vintage or a non-vintage. Yeah, so we needed a point of differentiation, a quality reason. So we've decided for 6 years on the lees with a 6 months cork maturation, which will remain in place. It's been amazing in the sense that we just finding the evolution with time on the lees is enhancing the quality of the bubble. And in fact, I'm extremely excited because of the 2013, which we'll be tasting. I think it's almost a step up from the 2012 that we have put onto the market. And a lot of that is because of the 6 years lease.
It sounds like that 6 years is your defining factor. And that perhaps answers the question that my wife asked that I wanted to ask you, because when I told her about it, her pet name is Sparkles, by the way, Sparkling Sparkle.
We like bubbles.
She loves bubbles. And when I told her about your project, her first question was, is it better than Graham Beck? What distinguishes it from what he makes for them? So stylistically, how different can we expect it to be? Obviously, the 6 years on the lease is a big difference.
Absolutely. So what we do is, I mean, we use only the cuvée juice, which is the best juice that you have within the process of making Cup Classique. You have the 3 juices. You have the cuvée, which is just literally, if you squeeze the berry, that first drop, then you get what they call the premier taille and the deuxième taille. So we use only the best selection of quality juice for our bubbly. The 6 years, again, we feel, and stylistically it is made so that it can cope with 6 years on the lees. Very different from Graham Beck. Graham Beck's an amazing brand that is very close to my heart, and obviously my husband's, he lives, eats and breathes it. So for us, we're family. We don't want to compete with them. We are not in this, it's completely different stylistically for that reason. And also because it's lovely to have this diversity of being able to make different kinds of Cup Classiques.
Mm. Well, you're obviously onto a winning formula, because besides Christian Eads' compliment, the Blanc de Blanc 2012 was awarded a Platter 5-star award, as well as being the highest rated Cup Classique in the Platter Guide, scoring 97 points. You were also awarded the Platter Wine Guide Newcomer Winery of the Year for 2020, as well as the Méthodique Cup Classique of the Year for 2020. So round of applause to you and Pieter. Well done.
Yeah, blow us away. I mean, it really took my breath away. It was so unexpected. It's been an amazing accolade, or accolades, to get all of them, especially for our first vintage. And as I say, I believe the next vintage is even better. Also, it's been an interesting year. It was going to be the Platter 2020 Roadshow with the 2 other award-winning wineries. Of course, I keep seeing the tastings and the things that we were going to be having with them. We're now doing from home and our offices, courtesy of COVID and lockdown.
Well, I hope things will pick up for us moving forward. And I need to get on to the tasting, because I think after all this talk of how wonderful this is, we really do need to taste. And I want to ask you, I mean, you've got to excuse the glass, Anne. It's just a wine glass, but I'm using this because obviously it'll give more aroma. But I wanted to chat about wine glasses briefly with you. As I say, I'm using this because I don't own a beautiful tulip glass like you have. But this is the glass that most people will be familiar with, the traditional so-called champagne flute. And would you mind telling us, I mean, why has this traditional flute glass become so passé now?
I really like your wine glass that you've got there, Guy. So well done with it. So, you know, interesting. I mean, I and he, obviously we have a complete passion for champagne. I got engaged in champagne. We have a long history with it, many friends. And many years ago already at some of the wineries, we were seeing them using wine glasses or a much more bulbous tulip type glass like ours. And the reason for it is, firstly, I mean, you're not going to fill the glass quite as full as you would with the old or the flute glass that people are using. And because of the depth and the width of the bowl, you're getting much more aromas, the complexity, you're seeing everything that you want in the wine. Whereas with the flute, you're not getting that. Originally, of course, the first glass as such used to be the Marie Antoinette left, right breast. I can't tell you which one, the coupe, but because of the width of the actual opening of the glass, you lose the bubbles and the finesse very quickly from it. Although I see more and more people are reverting back to it today just for the fun of it, and it looks quite chic and sexy. But definitely a wine glass or a tulip style glass to get the best from your wine that you're going to drink and enjoy in your glass is the one to go for.
Would you mind, now that we've seen it in the glass and would you mind talking us through your philosophy with this 2013 Blanc de Blanc?
Okay, so it's very much, yeah, again, it's our philosophy is important to us because part of it is diversity of geographical areas. So the Blanc de Blanc has, over the years, we get it from Robertson fruit, which we love because it shows that kind of sunshine, lemon limes that we look for in our Blanc de Blanc. And then the other part comes from cool climate Darling, and we're about 3 kilometers, the vineyard we use and source from, 3 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean, which gives it that brightness that we want. And then, of course, the decision to keep it on the lease for a minimum of 6 years before releasing it onto the market. It just, you know what, it just brings the extended lease time, gives it that sublime aromatics that you find in the actual wine itself. And I mean, if you think that this wine is almost 7 years old, I mean, you wouldn't think so. It's fresh, it's still got quite a few years to go. So delicious to drink now, but one can also cellar it for a while.
Indeed, and I must say, I love the straw color. It really is quite refined, and I love that those little beady mousse, and it's just absolutely stunning on the nose as well. So this is not something that I would readily share, if I'm honest. Wife will be lucky to get a glass out of this.
I have a friend who always quotes the best bottle is one that is not shared. So
you're giving me permission, Anne, that I don't have to share this with Sparkles?
I like Sparkles, so no, you will have to share.
Okay.
So, yeah. And of course, the lease time also gives you a much finer mousse concentration. So the tiny bubbles, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see in the camera. They're still slightly there, but they've kind of disappeared now. I'm always fascinated by what we call in motor racing privateers, but you know, yourselves as not being a part of a big corporate machine. So it's just you and Pieter who get to make this decision. And I'm always fascinated by the choice of label. Now, this is absolutely stunning. I'll hold it up a bit closer to the camera, and of course we've got photos for you to see as well. The coat of arms, is that your family crest? How did you arrive at this?
Yes, so yeah, so it's very much a family kind of decision of how we got to the label. I mean, I definitely wanted something that was quite classic and champagne in style and look for us, but also quite masculine because of Pieter's name, and you know. But our son William came up with the design. So he studied at AAA, and he and a great friend of his who's still in business together worked on our family crest. So Pieter being a Ferreira, and my mother's maiden name was Ferreira. So I just went, yeah, so it's quite a big, rich family history on both sides. My family, Pieter's family, of being a Ferreira. So it was the obvious choice for us to use the Ferreira family crest, which has been slightly tweaked. And then we just, as I say, we wanted something minimalistic, classic, with longevity that would kind of stand out and speak great, but I think, in classique.
At first glance, your family crest looks like a bee, which is not a bad thing because we need to save the bees. So it's save this bottle for for a better occasion.
I must say though, you know, I'm very opinionated and always telling people what I think and how I think. So it's quite a daunting process to suddenly be involved in something that is so close to one's heart and go, is it right or not? And of course, there's always the financial implication of creating a brand. I mean, it's pretty scary and huge, you know, and you have one chance and you've got to do what is right. And one never knows. You always have different opinions. So in the end, we just, you know, went with what we believed in and what speaks us as a family.
On the story of your brand, I have to share with everyone that I'm very spoilt, because today Anne has gifted me the just released, this is the maiden vintage Rosé, and it's the 2013 Rosé. So thank you for this gift. I really do appreciate it.
Great pleasure.
And I think I'd love to hear a little bit more from you in terms of your thinking. Obviously, you feel that the market demands a rosé as well, or what's the thing?
Yeah, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Yeah, so just pre-lockdown, we released our maiden vintage rosé. I again, you know, taking a hat out of the champenoise. I think both Pieter and I, probably our favorite sparkling wine or champagne style would be a Blanc de Blanc, 100% Chardonnay. And we always never averse to a delicious rosé. So, which is very much, you know, champagne in style. Each house would have a Blanc de Blanc, would have a rosé. And when we found the right fruit, which comes from Elgin and from Slanghoek, the Elgin portion bringing it that like cherry berry fruit as such and flavors that we love, and the Slanghoek Valley also adding the most amazing components to it in an interesting area. So what we've also tried to do is we have an expression of 100% Chardonnay in the Blanc de Blanc, and with the Rosé we have an expression of 100% Pinot Noir as such. Wow. Yeah. So, which is very much the way we're going to be going. So we're extremely excited. Nobody's actually tasted it yet. We've had one review via America for the International Sparkling Wine Review that gave it a 93 points, Don Winkler, which was fabulous and extremely exciting. A great food wine as well, I think. So, yeah.
So if I give it a good rating today, will my name get included on that roll call of honor? Guy McDonald gave it 98 points, and that's even better.
Absolutely. It'll go right on top. So there we are. That is the maiden vintage rosé, which, Guy, you are the first to be tasting it like this, and I'm the first to be doing it with somebody like you. So extremely exciting for me. So thank you.
Well, first up, the thing I must tell you that I really love is your beautiful salmon color that you've achieved here. It's absolutely stunning. Wow.
Isn't it just? Hey, it's beautiful. And I mean, as Pieter also always says, I mean, your eyes also, you taste with your eyes as well. So you look at it, you see it. I mean, it really has got a beautiful color to it, you know, not too pink. It's, yeah, the way I love it.
I think also, oh, wow. You really get those, I think I would say cherries. That's the immediate impression on my palate, and ripe raspberries as well that come through. And you mentioned that would be from Elgin.
That's from Elgin, yeah. So as I say, again, with a rosé, we're using only the Premier Cuvée juice that comes from the whole bunch pressing of the grapes. So, yeah, another source of differentiation and another reason, you know, why we feel we're very special with this wine. Yeah. So it's delicious. It's got like such a yumminess in your mouth. I don't know how to.
It does. It does. And I love that you say a yumminess in your mouth, because, you know, that's the thing that with Via the Grapevine, I'm always trying to inspire people to describe wine in the language that's pertinent to themselves. I think a lot of people are intimidated by wine language per se, and they think they've got to try and find these big words, and they get put off by, get put off sharing what they think because, oh, I don't know if I'm going to tick all the right boxes. But essentially, that's what it comes down to. And you've heard it from Anne, who is the owner of this brand, and she says, yumminess in your mouth.
But it is, I agree with you. I must say, I too often you find people talking kind of wine geek, which is great if that is your passion, but it's a very small group of people, as one gets in any kind of sphere or work or whatever. And wine is about what it does for you, what makes it delicious for you. I mean, it's the one in your glass. It's also the intrinsic, where you are. Are you having a great experience at the time? It's whatever. But it also, your nose never lies to your palate, never lies to you. And many, many, many years ago, there was a very famous American winemaker called Robert Mondavi, from Robert Mondavi Wines and Opus One in the States. And he had a very simple analogy when we were chatting to him about how does he taste and how does he rate a wine. And he went, I taste it, I drink it, I smell it, I decide. He says, as I'm putting it, the glass down, I bring it back and I have another sip. Then I know I'm onto a good wine. And I always thought that was such a amazing, simple, but yet sensible analogy. Yeah, wine is what it does for you as an individual and speaks to you as an individual.
And sometimes I think you don't even know, you're not even necessarily cognizant of what it's doing exactly. So what you need to do if you're tasting a variety of wines, and I always find this when I'm lucky enough to attend, wine tastings, and you do a vertical tasting, and you'll have 5 or 6 glasses that you've tasted, and maybe the winemaker will say, so which one was your favorite? And immediately your wine intelligence kicks in and you want to say, well, it was obviously the oldest one and it was that, or it was the one you refined more, but actually it comes down to looking at your glasses and which glass has the least amount in it. That's your favorite.
That's a great analogy. And listen, coming from you with all your wine knowledge and your WACTs, that is the way it is. Perfect. And wine shouldn't be intimidating.
Yeah.
And then I think particularly currently we should be drinking as much as possible.
Indeed.
To support everybody.
I want to touch on that very briefly with you. In terms of the market as we're finding it now, obviously COVID has knocked our industry sideways. What do you think we should be doing as an industry? Are you positive? Are you feeling like there is a momentum that's starting, or how are you and Pieter feeling at the moment?
Gosh, I mean, we vacillate, and I do, because it's such an important industry in our economy, and the lives that are involved in it, whether it's the person in a vineyard, whether it's the guy who produces your boxes, whatever it may be, it's affected everybody. The restaurants that may not sell wine. It's a disaster. I think we're going to see a huge amount of fallout, which is even more reason why we need to sell as much as possible. And I don't think the world's going to change very quickly at the moment. And I look at other countries and they're dealing with the same problems. And so, whether you're selling wine in America and you're an American wine brand, you've got the same challenges, except that you don't have the challenge of not being able to sell wine for so many weeks and months, not being able to not buy it in a restaurant if that is what you want to do. So yeah, I'm in the fortunate position where I make very little wine. So at the moment, it's going to have to become a livelihood for me quite quickly, but it's baby steps. So, but for many wineries, no matter how big and how small, I think it's very stressful, because also I think, like the restaurant industry and everybody else, they feel responsible for their staff and everybody who's involved, and that's the way it should be, and the knock-on effect of all those families that are not being,
Well, I think now's the time to wrap with our quick fire questions. I've got 5 quick fire questions for you. I'm gonna ask you, and I just want you to shoot out the first answer that comes to mind. Don't think about it too hard. And we'll start with Cuvée Pieter or Cuvée Clive?
That's a sneaky one. Is there a choice? No. You know what? Both very different wines, very different philosophies, and wines that I'm very passionate about. I mean, the Clive has an amazing philosophy. It's the best cherry picks that Graham Beck and Pieter them have got, from vintage to vintage, and until recently, in fact, it hasn't been a wine that they produced every vintage. It's delicious. It's absolutely wonderful. And of course, the Pieter Ferreira is close to my heart. So what can I say?
Sure.
Don't make me, I'm not going to. I'll drink them all.
Okay. What is your favorite variety to drink? And this can be either in terms of bubblies or indeed still wines. What is do you have a favorite? Is it Chardonnay? Is it Pinot Noir?
Yeah, so look, it's definitely sparkling wine or bubbly or champagne as such, and we probably drink every single day. We don't need an excuse. We might go onto a still wine. I might go onto a still wine, whichever way. So, and then it's Blanc de Blanc, which is Chardonnay based, and I have a big passion for Chardonnay as such.
I'm with you on that. I'm a massive Chardonnay fan, and last year, towards the end of last year, I was criticized on Twitter by somebody who said that they didn't think I knew much about wine if Chardonnay was my favorite. And it threw me into a bit of turmoil. I actually had to have a conversation with McDonald about it. And she said to me, just ignore it. Just ignore it. You're fine. Everything's fine. So,
you know what I mean? Oh, hello there. I love Fiona, and I would definitely go with what she has to say. And, you know, it's interesting. I mean, stylistically, the world changes, and then we go this way. Chenin might be the flavor of the month. I see Sauvignon Blanc is coming back again, but in an alternative kind of Swartland style. But at the end of the day, who doesn't want to drink a great Burgundy? You know, it'll never die. It's not a fashionable great. It's absolutely classic, delicious, and proves itself over and over and over again. We've got another taster there.
So this is Mackles, by the way. Mac, say hello.
Hello, Mac. Hello, Mac. I mustn't show him to my dogs. I need to tell everybody, Guy has got the most amazing mask, which I happen to have tried to also get via the SPCA, Cape SPCA. They sold out for adults, but the face of various dogs or cats, and they were there, I think 50 Rand when I went on to them. They've only got for children at the moment. Definitely worth supporting. And they look hell of a funky. Now that we've all yeah.
Maybe instead of, for my quick fire questions, maybe instead of asking favorite variety to drink, I should say cat or dog mask. And maybe that would be a better one. I'll think about that.
It's a dog mask.
So bush or beach for you, Anne?
Definitely beach. We have a home at a small nondescript town called Purdy Beach, and it's our happy space.
Okay.
To drink
so I think that will
lots of mussels and just live. Yeah, it's lovely.
I think that'll answer the next question, which is heels or flip-flops.
Try the flip-flops, although I do have a tendency to like heels on occasion.
And picnic or braai?
Picnic.
Okay, fantastic. Of course, bubbly goes best with a picnic. But I mean, I suppose we should be introducing it to braais more often as well, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. As I said, I mean, the versatility of Cap Classique must not be underestimated, you know. Again, I'm saying, repeating myself, but you can get up in the morning and go, I need something. And you can have a glass of sparkling wine or Cap Classique or champagne. Nobody's going to look at you and say, what are you doing? You open a bottle of delicious red or white, they're going to say, are you mad in your head? And there's also nothing as like feel good and pick me up, I think, as a glass of great Cap Classique to drink.
You touched on it much earlier. Only 2,500 bottles produced of each of these, correct?
Yes. And going forward, not much more. So, but one day we'll be big.
Well, I've got to warn you, dear viewer, I have 2 of those bottles already. So it means you better hurry down to Liquor City Claremont for your hands on some of the 4,998 remaining bottles. Get along and buy Pieter Ferreira Cup Classique. And if you fancy your luck, then answer the easy question here on the Via the Grapevine page. Tag 2 of the friends or family or people that you would share it with, and you could win a gift pack of the Blanc de Blanc and Rosé, courtesy of Pieter Ferreira and Ann. Ann Ferreira, thank you so much for your time and your energy today. And I really do wish you and your husband the best of success with this bubbling business.
Thank you, Guy. It's been a fab tasting, and thank you for being my introduction to Rosé to the world out there. So enjoy the rest, and please share with Sparkles. I give it a
97.5.
Just push it to a 98, and then I can quote you.
Then you'll quote it 98. It is absolutely stunning. Wow.
I think it's bribery. Thank you very much, Guy.
Thank you very much. And this Via the Grapevine was brought to you by Liquor City Claremont. Visit their wine emporium for a journey via the Grapevine.